In the next few lectures, I want to show you how easy it is to install a favicon. A favicon is also known as shortcut icon, website icon, tab icon, URL icon, or bookmark icon. Essentially, it's a small graphic image. What size is it? Well, favicons should be 32 by 32 pixels or 16 by 16 pixels. If you decide to try and use an image that isn't that dimension, then it could look distorted or not work at all in some web browsers, so it's best to keep to those dimensions. Let's have a look at some example favicons. I'm going to just type in a search for anything really and open up some of these websites. Okay, each of these tabs now has a little image next to it. This is the favicon. You can see Asda has an A, Wikipedia uses a big W, some other websites use letters. This one says DS and this one is an H inside of a C, which I assume is probably part of their logo. So what I want to do is look and see how you can create one of these icons and then how you can install it on your website. That's coming in the next couple of lectures. In the last video, we looked at what favicons are, and I told you that the dimension of them is 32 by 32 or 16 by 16. If you're creating a favicon for a site that isn't WordPress, then you may need to create an icon of 32 by 32 or 16 by 16. If you're using WordPress, you don't have to do that. It's a lot easier. Firstly, if you need to create a 32 by 32 or 16 by 16, I recommend you have a look at favicon.io because you can easily create favicons from text. So let's say I'm going to do my initials there. Let's change the font a little bit and make it a little bit smaller so that it fits. Okay, and I can change the color of the font and the background, and I can download that favicon, and it's going to give me favicons that are the correct size. So I have a favicon there. I've got 32 by 32 and a 16 by 16 if I wanted to. I've also got a 512 by 512, and that could be useful for the favicon for WordPress, because in WordPress you can often include an image that's 512 by 512 and WordPress itself will do the resizing for you. We'll look at that in the next video, but for now, if you are still trying to create a favicon of 32 by 32 and you want to use an image, then find the image you want to use. I've downloaded this one from Pixabay. You can go back to the favicon.io and we're going to generate the image into a favicon. So I'm going to just click to upload. And there it is. Let's select it. And you can see we've now got the favicon created. Let's open it and have a quick look. And there is my favicon. There's a 32 by 32, 16 by 16 favicon. Okay, that's if you need to create one 32 by 32. But what about if I wanted to use this image as a favicon in WordPress? Well, the first thing I would do is I would take the image in an image editor and resize it so that it is a perfect square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my shift key. Oops, I've got the wrong thing there. I want to go up to my tools here, rectangular select, hold down the shift key and then drag it out, and that will give me a perfect square for my image. I'm going to click on crop, and then I'm going to go up to image resize, and I'm going to resize it 512 by 512, and then let's save that. Go down to a temporary folder down here. Let's save it as fish image folder and save it. And you can see here I've now got my fish image, which is a 512 by 512 image. In the next video we'll look at how we can install that as the favicon for the website. In the last lecture we created a favicon. We also created an image that was 512 by 512, which with WordPress, I think it was after about WordPress 4.3, you were allowed to use these larger images. So what we want to do is go into the Customize section of the dashboard. Now, depending on what theme you have, you may or may not see the Site Identity tab, and that is what you're looking for, Site Identity. This theme that I'm using is Astra, and I know that it's in the Layout header, Site Identity. If I scroll down here at the bottom, I can see Site Icon. This is the Favicon, and if I click Select, you can see that it's suggested image dimensions 512 by 512. Let me go and upload my fish image, which is 512 by 512. Notice you could have a bigger image. So if you had 1000 by 1000, that would be fine too, because WordPress will compress it. 512 by 512 is a recommended size, or at least the recommended minimum size for quality. Let's select that. And you can see up in the corner now, we have the favicon changed to the fish. It's not particularly visible, and this is something you're going to have to do a bit of trial and error, because the favicon, if it's like that, what's the point of having it? You can't tell what it is. Let's remove that one, and instead I'm going to add one that uses just my initials. So let's go back. I'm going to upload it. And this time you'll see that it is much easier to see that type of favicon. This one is obviously a lot easier to see, and the more contrast you have between the letters and the background, the easier it's going to be. So for my particular site, this one, harlan.co.uk, using AW doesn't really make much sense unless you know that I own the site, but maybe a large H would be a good favicon to have. If your website has 2 or 3 words in it, then you could use those 2 or 3 letters of the words as your favicon. But it really is a case of trial and error. You'll get a hang of creating favicons and knowing ahead of time whether it's going to work or it isn't. High contrast images work a lot better than ones with lots of colour, like our fish that we tried earlier.